Hey, what's up everyone? Jules D here, and today I'm talking about principles and techniques, how you can become a more genuine and powerful fundraiser. So I'm not going to go through my whole fundraising backstory in this short video, but when I started face-to-face fundraising more than 12 years ago on the streets of Melbourne, put it this way, I did not hit the ground running. In fact, I almost lost my job. The brilliant organization I worked for at the time, still love them, still connected with them, they had an evaluation period, essentially a week-long period where you had to raise a certain amount of money in order to pass and continue with the training and stay with the company. But I did not pass, I did not raise enough money. But you know, I felt connected to the work. I felt like it just hadn't clicked, and there was so much potential in me left. And I really wanted to continue with the work. I wasn't looking for a career. I was actually just traveling through Australia at the time, but I really felt connected to this work, and I wanted to give it another go. And so I spoke to one of the senior managers, explained the story, and asked for another evaluation, and they gave me one. And I passed. I got through the next evaluation period, but I kind of just scraped through. I didn't do very well. Again, I still felt like there was lots of untapped potential. So what I thought I would do was study and spend time with the high performers, find out what they were doing. I thought surely there must be techniques and strategies and tactics that they use that make them this effective. So let me learn from them, learn what they do, and that will make me a great fundraiser. However, when I started to spend more time with them and pick their brains, I was actually quite baffled. I was baffled because I saw such a wide variety of people. I saw extroverts, introverts, the temperaments and the characters and the backgrounds and the cultures, all so different. And even in the way that they fundraised, it externally looked quite different. And I thought to myself, you know, this is not what I imagined. I guess I had a picture of what a fundraiser looked like. You know, maybe a pretty smooth, charismatic extrovert, but that wasn't the case at all. In fact, some of the best fundraisers were introverts. And so I thought, okay, what does this mean? And I continued to work with them and study them and pick their brains, because I thought there must be some commonalities. There must be some sort of common denominators in what they're doing. And as I spent more time with them, I noticed that while externally they were doing quite different things and it looked quite different, there was some underlying fundamental principles that they were all following. And as I started to see this more and more, I started to see it everywhere. And I started to see that actually these principles, these guidelines kind of ran through all these high performers. And in fact, they're the basis of powerful and effective fundraising. So you may be asking yourself, what do I mean when I'm talking about principles? So a principle is sort of a fundamental concept. It's a fundamental belief that guides the way that we make decisions and we act. So it's the rule and the guideline behind what we're doing, right? It might apply differently in different circumstances, but that fundamental principle remains the same. So an example of this in fundraising would be building rapport. You know, building rapport, as you probably know, is super powerful. It's a really powerful tool in so many ways. I'm not going to go into it now, but building rapport is one of those principles. How an introvert and how an extrovert build rapport might look different, might feel different, but they're both still building rapport. I believe truly powerful and effective fundraisers are not cut out of cookie shapes. They're not all the same. They are unique individuals that use their own special gifts to build strong connections, to inspire, to motivate people, to support the causes for the right reasons. Now, while I totally think it's possible, in fact, I've seen lots of it, you've probably seen it yourself, to use, you know, slick sales techniques and tactics and tricks to get people to say yes quite effectively and get quite good numbers, I don't think that this is a good way of fundraising. I don't think it's sustainable. I think often it's not ethical, and I think it creates a whole host of issues. Here are just a couple. So for the fundraiser themselves, I think being something you're not on a consistent basis is not good. It is not healthy. I think it's a huge source of stress and anxiety. And if continued on, not just as a fundraiser, but in life in general, it can be a massive source of mental health issues and well-being issues down the line. Never mind that, it doesn't feel good, right? It doesn't feel good to be inauthentic, to not be yourself, to always have to feel like you have to be what you think other people want you to be, right? We call this masking sometimes, right? When you act and you behave in a way that you think other people will like, will appreciate, will love, etc. It's not good for us, it doesn't feel good, and all around it's not a good strategy. And more practically, in terms of fundraising performance, you know, the high performers I've studied that are able to get the best quality supporters, Those individuals that are able to keep their attrition levels really low, are able to retain members and supporters long term, are those individuals that are actually most themselves. They are able to authentically and genuinely connect with people, connect with their values, motivate, inspire people to support these causes for the right reasons. So this was actually one of my issues in those early days. Now, it wasn't that I was copying other people, but I was putting on a bit of an act. I was trying to be a fundraiser, what I thought that was. Enthusiastic, charismatic, smooth, and while I think I am all those things to some extent in some ways, I wasn't being authentic at the time. I wasn't being genuine, and I wasn't able to connect with supporters effectively. And when I realized that actually the best thing that I could do was be the best version of myself, man, what a relief that was. And I started to enjoy my job so much more. I started to perform better, and everything really started when I realized that I just needed to be myself. And this is why I've always had a big focus on principles, because I think if you understand the why behind why something's powerful, why it's effective, it then allows you the freedom to be yourself and find the way to live it out in your own unique way. Now, don't get me wrong, I love techniques, tactics, and strategies. I have heaps of them. I've collected them over the years, and I just think they're brilliant. I think there's so many cool, interesting, fun ways to do different things. So it's not that I think these are bad, but I think if you're doing them without an understanding of why they work and why they're powerful, then ultimately they're not going to be that effective, and they could come across or could be done with the wrong motivation behind them. Also, while some techniques are great, they're not all going to work for everyone all the time, right? So having a bit of a variety of different tools and techniques and approaches for different things is really helpful, because then at least you can find something that feels more yourself and maybe make a few tweaks to it and get it to be powerful and effective and authentic at the same time. And in the future, I am going to be talking to techniques more and more. I do want to share with you a whole variety of different techniques for doing different things. But since I don't actually have that much time to create this content, I still have a day job, I've got a side business, there's a whole bunch of other things I'm doing, and I really only get maybe one day a week to work on content and videos, that actually principles are the best thing that I can share with you first, because they are going to be far more helpful initially than any techniques will. And having worked with hundreds of fundraisers at this point, occasionally I have fundraisers ask me, Jules, I just want you to tell me what to do. Tell me specifically, exactly what to do, and I will just do that. And now I know while principles can be a little bit more fuzzy, because you have to figure them out a little bit more in terms of how you're going to live those out yourself, they are far more powerful in the long term. And there are still a lot of actionable steps associated with the principles that I teach. And so I am going to be sure to bring you those actionable steps at the end of these videos. So with that said, here are some actionable takeaways. So for fundraisers, what I would recommend is that you try and understand some of the principles behind powerful, good performance. Now, obviously, you can watch me in these videos and try and understand through that, but also, look at high performers, speak to your team leaders and your managers and those people who are doing well and performing well, and try and ask them a bit more about why they're doing what they're doing, why they think it's effective and it works. Not to say that you shouldn't take it and try and use it, by all means. I think that actually can be a good place to start. Trying to use a technique or a tactic that someone else does, even directly as a first port of call, it's not a bad idea. But if you feel like you're sort of violating your nature, you're trying to be extroverted and bubbly and enthusiastic when actually that's not who you really are. Maybe you are a little bit more serious, a little bit more down to earth and not as flamboyant. That's totally cool. Now, we do want to adapt ourselves to be the best versions of ourselves. I don't think any fundraisers, for instance, should not smile. So don't say, well, I'm just not a smiling type of person. You can not be a smiling type of person, but you're probably not going to do very well as a fundraiser. Now, what I'm talking about is don't violate your internal compass. You know when you're doing something or you're acting in a certain way and it's really not you, because there are other ways to do it that will be more you and will be more effective. So do try and focus on understanding principles as well as living out techniques and adapt them. Try things out, test things out. Don't just feel like you have to do it exactly the way that somebody else does it. And if you are a team leader or a manager or someone supporting others, don't just focus on trying to teach people things in the way that you do it. You might be really effective doing things in a certain way, and someone else might, be effective as well, but they also might not. I think, again, this was one of my early issues as a fundraising manager. I was a phenomenal fundraiser, I was a trainer, and I thought, well, I'll just teach people to do exactly what I'll do, and it'll all work out. And it didn't work out. Some people took it and ran with it and were okay with it and did pretty well. I had some good high performers, and some people it didn't click with them. It just didn't work for them. And in fact, it created instability in the team. But once I started to focus more on teaching the principles and then guiding people to live those out in their own unique way, that led to people being authentic, team cohesion, culture, engagement. The stability of the team began to come in much, much better, and ultimately we were very, very successful. I think this can be challenging for some of you that are responsible for others, because maybe you don't really understand why what you do is effective, or you don't have that variety of knowledge. So ask around, do a bit of internal digging, do a bit of research, a bit of a reading, try and figure out why it is that you do things in a certain way and why it works. You can also buddy people up with people that are more like them. That works quite well as well. If there are other people that they vibe well with or are quite similar, that might also work in terms of helping them pick up tactics, techniques, and ways of working that will work far better for them as individuals. So just one more thing before you go, before you change the channel, turn me off, or hopefully watch another one of my videos, I want to ask you a favor. I would love it if you would support this channel by liking, subscribing, sharing my content with other fundraisers or people you know, and commenting below and getting in touch with me. I haven't created this channel to monetize, to become a YouTube star, to get tens of thousands of followers. It's never been a goal. Why I've created this channel is because this is the content that I would have liked as a fundraiser. This is exactly what I would have loved to have had when I was still fundraising, back in the day. And I want to help you, fundraise better, to be happier in your jobs ultimately. The happier you are, the better you'll fundraise. And face-to-face fundraising has been honestly an absolute lifesaver for me. I have enjoyed it more than anything I've done in the world, and I think I'll just keep doing it. This is truly something that I'm passionate about, and I don't know all the answers. I don't know everything. I want to create a community on this channel. I want to create a community where, and hopefully at some point, I can start sharing stuff that the community brings in as well, right? So we can all together become better, more effective, become happier fundraisers, and ultimately you make a bigger impact in the world. So that's my ask for the end of the video. Like, subscribe, comment below, and until next time, stay inspired and keep fundraising.